and it was well, like the exchange was really well done. Where we
what was the vision when you came together? What did you hope to achieve by coming together?
It was understanding unity within diversity.
The vision was simply to understand how you can relate together.
Yes, we coming from different church denomination, how to work together.
Okay.
And we were able to achieve that, from my point of view.
How do you measure that?
Because we talked about different topics that could have been broad, great discussions or even disputes, but we were very much respectful of each other's point of view. And so we were listening to one another and not trying to push each one's ideas or doctrinal points, but it was really about hearing the other and trying to understand where they are at.
So basically, your measure is lack of quarrels.
Yes.
Yeah, because you feared when these people, Catholics and Lutherans and Pentecostals come together, it will be fireworks. Then it turned out everybody understood each other.
Yes.
So it was effective.
Yes, John.
Yes?
I have been in Mauritius before for trying to do something ecumenical.
Yeah.
And it was very, very difficult, especially with the Pentecostal wing and the evangelical wings. I remember some people were so emotional about why they should join. So, but that's so many years ago. Maybe it is from that background that Range is talking about.
And from somebody like you who is aware about the way things were, you are also pleasantly surprised that they did not fight.
I am surprised because those years we tried so many times and we were not successful.
Range, congratulations.
Oh, it was not from me. I think it's God's work, and it was like when you're asking what did the leader or members do to make it effective. I think it's like building communication, making bridges between the different denominations to discuss. Like open the conversation and try to understand. I don't say it's a one battle, but it's a step forward toward building bridges and communicating with one another.
Okay. What did you do that prepared the people not to fight? Which is the second question.
I guess it was the program that I was not part of the organizational team. I was one of the participants, but the program was well built, and it was built in such a way that each leader from each denomination was talking or sharing. So it was not a closed conversation of one denomination. It was really open, and the sharing was in different groups where everyone was mixed. So it was not only denominational, it was very mixed. And so this also created this conversation and building the communication.
Thank you. So the lesson we are learning here, if you want to achieve your vision, everyone must feel appreciated and important. Whoever, so that they feel they are not second-rate citizens. So every denomination felt they are accepted, they are appreciated. Number two, you have told us there was a clear program in advance. So somebody knows I will get a chance to say something also. So they will allow the other person to talk because they are also going to get some time to talk. And have I summarized it correctly, Range?
Yes, you did.
Thank you very much. Somebody else? This is a very nice story of community building. So any other story?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Professor.
Welcome.
No, this is not. Karibu. Okay. Mine is a story which is like Ranger's story.
Yeah.
I work in a theological institution, and annually we have some meetings with other institutions from other denominations. Here the problem comes. We had a scenario where we needed to come up with some measurement instruments in terms of seeing at the end of the year which institution has grown and which one is still growing. As Sister Rinja was saying, we had also this problem with some institutions from Pentecostal churches. We have 2 institutions from those churches, other institutions from the Romans, Methodists, Anglicans, and so on. So that was not a consensus on coming with the instrument which would guide us in terms of which institution is growing. So that was a debate because each church or each institution was trying to push it for its side. So what we did was just to come up with a small committee which would go and try to come up with a solid instrument which can give a value to ideas from different institutions. So I want to agree with what Professor John Ganga has said. We need really to bring or to consider ideas from different people. So what we did, we considered points from each institution and we tried to summarize and come up with one document which can cover all the information that we got from other institutions.
Thank you. Philip, that's fantastic. The last person to talk.
Thank you.
May I share one story?
Go ahead, Johanna.
Yeah, it was long ago when I was in my village. It was a time of drought. The government has been offering food and related stuff for mostly for people who are in serious need. Something happened on the issue of distribution. It was one group, one village. There is a kind of in our language that is a community. Then the issue of selecting, recruiting the most needy one raised, and the assigned committee, the leaders of that village, didn't do fairly. And the remaining community stand against them, and the conflict raised. Because of this conflict, the village divided into 2, and one group established the other leader, new leaders, and the original leaders also gathered and their supporters, and the group, the village divided into 2. My friend and me tried to reconcile, and we faced a big challenge because we belong to them, one of the groups. Therefore, we tried to convince some men from both sides so that they would come and hear us. And we convinced most of them, and they come together, and we began to discuss the issue. Finally, at the end, it is a long story, we managed to reconcile. Just we convinced all of them to ignore the former leadership and the new ones, and to elect together a new committee. And we managed to reconcile, and it is something which I feel always something I contributed to that community in my young age, and most of them still witness that for unity, our contribution was very high. That does not mean that there were challenges, there were accusers, so that they may lose some benefits among the people. But if a leader, if someone has a clear mind and honestly approach to the community, that can bring a change, can help the leader to influence.
I agree with you, Johanna. I think the lesson from your group is unfairness will kill a group. From what I heard you say, the whole issue came from unfairness. Food should be distributed to the most needy, but the committee decides to give to their favorites. And that's what created the problem. The solution was listening to both sides. Even the criminals must be listened to. And then convincing them that it's for everybody's good. And once they are convinced, you give them a chance to elect their own people. Now, I think that's, have I summarized correctly, Johanna?
Yes.
Those are lessons all of us can learn in what we are doing. And I hope all of us are learning in the process whatever we are called to do. Because the Lord is calling us to create communities, which will be an issue. I want now to give you a Singapore story, which is a story of a transformational leader who wanted a third world country to change from being a third world country to a first world country within one generation. Our generation normally 30 to 40 years. The reason we tell the story is because he actually succeeded. Is there somebody who has already heard the story? I don't want to repeat it if you've already gone through it. Are you interested in the story? Do you like stories? Johanna, I give the story. Nobody is interested in the story. Johanna, what did you say?
We are eagerly waiting to hear.
Okay, then you are truly African. Thank you very much. Can you see the case study? Is it visible, Johanna?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Here is the Singapore story. From a third world to a first world within one generation. They actually took them 35 years. From 1965, that's when the president is dreaming. These notes are from Dr. Victor Ko, who is likely to be talking to you at a later time. Look at that. Singapore is a little green dot at the tip of the Malaysian Peninsula. I hope you can see the tip. He is trying to get us to understand. I think Mauritius may be Mauritius is about the same size. Range. How long? How many kilometers is it? The length of Mauritius?
I don't know, but I think it's the same. It's pretty much the same size.
Yeah, you can actually walk across. You can walk either way, and that's how small the Mauritian place is. It's a walking distance. It's like a village. One direction 43 kilometers. They across 23 kilometers. So that's a land area of 710 kilometers, and the density is about 8,000 people per square kilometer. So they have a small population of about 6 million. Look at the transformation. 1960s. That's a picture of the 1960s. Look on your right. The same island, they were able to clear these slum-like dwellings. Look at what you have on the right side. Quite something. The World Bank holds Singapore as a model of development, pointing to sound policies in urbanization. Look at 65, a wider picture. Look at the high skyscrapers of the current Singapore. So how did they move from there to there? That's what we call transformation. It's not an improvement. Improvement is not transformation, although improvement is also appreciated. Just look at Singapore just after the Second World War. It is in poverty, unemployment, low education. Health is at its worst. Corruption was the normal way of dealing with things. And the political climate was terrible. So they had, according to Dr. Ko, they had many illegal gangs that controlled the various areas. So law and order, of course, there were hardly any infrastructure. And who would agree to invest in such a place anyway? And then, as if that's not bad enough, China wanted to take them over, Indonesia wanted to take them over, USSR wanted to take them over, this small island. External threats. And then, since they were so small, when they were given independence, they were given independence together with Malaysia. Then Malaysia found them like a pain in the neck. And by August 1965, they said, no, go on your own. But they were such a small island, they didn't seem like it can make economic sense. But then the leadership of Singapore had a vision. A vision of build a harmonious, peaceful, prosperous, multiracial, multireligious, socio-democratic society based on justice, equality, integrity, and meritocracy. So from what you have seen, that's what they were dreaming can happen. So in the process, they hope they can go from a third world nation to first world nation within one generation. This will become a nation led by leaders of integrity. It will be a corruption-free society, so they dreamt. It will have people that are disciplined, hardworking, highly educated, skilled, and productive labor. They will teach the people to delay gratification. In other words, a society that saves. Instead of eating everything they make, they learn to save. Because the saving will be invested to make them reach their vision. They also wanted a nation of national self-reliance rather than depending on help. They hoped that they can clean society so that it will be clean, green, and safe as a society. To achieve that, they hope they can have tripartism. Instead of government fighting the unions and the business partners coming in between to create chaos, why can't the government, the trade unions, and the employers come together and think through how can we work together in order to change our society? And in the process, achieve the possibility of full employment, everybody assured of a job. Rather than the labor union in fighting to increase the salaries, so some people have jobs and earning, and others are getting poorer. They also hope for quality, affordable, sustainable housing for all. so that people not live in slums. They also hope that every Singaporean will have access to quality, not just education, but quality education, quality health care, quality infrastructure and living standards for every Singaporean. And then importantly, they want a society that will have justice for all, not for a certain tribe or for the leaders, but justice for all. No impunity for offenders and criminals. Any criminal will be punished, irrespective of who he is. So you can see where they were, what they were dreaming for, and where they came from. Now they prepared a concept, a planning and master plan for Singapore. So you can see what they are doing. So, how did they actually achieve it? How did the leaders build the capacity for the nation to go where it was going? The first thing they want for is industrialization and job creation. They created Jurong Town Corporation that would be government funded and would create employment. Then they look for foreign direct investments. In other words, create an infrastructure and an atmosphere that will allow outsiders to invest, not to give them donations, but to actually invest. And they created a board called EDP, Economic Development Board, whose job was to create a climate that would allow outsiders to invest their money, that way create employment and to make profit. Then they created a body called Trade Development Board, whose job was to ensure trade and exports. In other words, the things you are producing, these investments are producing, they will create a market for them. Then they had planning on land use and building control. You don't just build whatever you want, wherever you want. Everything, every inch of Singapore is planned. What you can put where, so that you don't have a city of slum. That's what was done by Urban Redevelopment Authority. So that way they will knock out the areas that require high-rise. The government will be involved. Then remember, their dream was savings, delaying gratification. They formed a body called Central Provident Fund, whose job was to collect the savings and social security, so that you are saving money, but that money will also ensure your old age and your life is better. Then they created another body called Housing Development Board, HDB. Its job is build houses that are cheap enough for even the poorest Singaporean to afford a decent house. Then they created a body called MOE, Ministry of Education. It was to invest in quality education. Then they created a Ministry of Health, which was to tackle the quality health care. And then they formed a PSA, Port of Singapore Authority, whose job was to ensure Singapore becomes a transshipment port. Since as an island, they don't have enough products, why can't they make it such that you can come with a big ship and small ships can pick their goods from Singapore? That way you are increasing jobs in Singapore, although the product came from outside, were transshipped in Singapore and went elsewhere. They were not even landing, they were not even going to be used in Singapore. That way you multiply the jobs. Then they created something called National Productivity Board. And their work was to measure whether each Singaporean is productive and create systems that will make every employee productive, labor productivity. Then they created something called National Wage Council, orderly wage increase. That's the one that agreed a tripartite agreement. So the wages will increase, but in a controlled manner, not by trade union strikes. So the union is assured their people are being looked after, so it doesn't necessarily go on strike. Then they had national security, national service that for security, and then they had a corruption practices investigation bureau, CPIP. Its work was to investigate anybody and everybody who is being corrupt and criminalize it and punish him. Then they had LTA, CAS, MND, that whose work was to create infrastructure for Singapore, world-class infrastructure and transport. And to do that, they ended up having e-government. This is Infocom Development Authority that was trying to ensure everything is digitized. So you can see, it was not a dream to happen on its own. They were doing things that would make it happen, which is important. So I realize I've taken a bit of time. I want to find a way of seeing what to skip. So Singapore key economic indicators, you are going to get these notes, or at least they are available, so you can look at it. By 2015, they had actually become first world country with a fertility rate of 1.28. That means they were able to control their population growth. And their median age was something just below 40. And about 17% of the population was actually above 60. Their GDP was 320 billion. Many countries in Africa would have to be put together. Life expectancy, can you imagine, had grown to 83 years. And you can see there are many ways of measuring it. Least corrupt country, number 8. World Bank report based on 10 factors. Starting a business, dealing with construction. When they were measured against all these factors, they came at the top. Economic capacity infrastructure, global competitive index, institutions, legal and administrative framework to do business. World Economic Forum report based on 12 factors. Look at that. Key economic indicators for Singapore. Population by then was 5.5 million. There was employment for all. Nobody unemployed. There was quality housing for all. There was quality education for all. There was justice for all. The port of Singapore had become number 1. The airport in the world had become now, the airline, Singapore Airline, was rated number 1. And on the use of digitized government, e-government, they were number 1, rated all over the world. They had a World Medical Center, they had a World Communication Center, they had a World Education Center, World Financial Center. They had attracted many things to Singapore. Quality, because they had quality health care, they had quality infrastructure for all. They were number 1 most desired place in the world to live and work by 2012. Number of passengers, visitors was 70 million a year. Wow. The small island with only 5 million people was getting 192,000 people daily. You know, learning from Singapore, you need 3 types of competencies in leaders. Visionary, development leaders, and management leaders. You need all of them. You need commonality of vision and core values, because that's what they had to agree. And then you need ideas to know, because ideas have consequences, and you need a goal, improving standard of living of the people. You can get this information from the book, From That World to Fast by Lee Kuan Yew, or Lim Kim San, A Builder of Singapore by Asadul Al-Ikrolatif, or In Lieu of Ideology, An Intellectual Biography of Gong Keng Swing by O King Bing, and The Dynamics of the Singapore Success Story by Tong Do, written in 2010. So you can get the story. How to inculcate values and the ethical culture. How did they do it? National leaders had a commitment to national vision. Societal change agents and leaders mobilized in all the 7 domains of society: government, business, education, media, celebrities. All of them were called together. And the role of state cooperation was clarified. Woodlands Public Housing Estate in Singapore with the mass rapid. Look at that. With roads high flying in the sky. Look at that. Look at this island we saw earlier. Roads above each other. Those are high-rise buildings. And Singapore today is home to 7,000 multinational companies and 125,000 SMEs. And it's a great city to live and work and play. So, what does that mean? To transform Ethiopia or to transform Mozambique is possible within our lifetime. And I quote Dr. Victor Ko, who lived in it. So he's not telling a story by reading. For him, he lived through it. Any question or comment? And then I'll be helped by Professor Mike Wicker to answer the questions.
Yes, Prof. Here is Philippi.
Yes.
Mine is not a question. I just have a comment from what I learned. I understand also that a transformational leadership, if you work with a small group and you are able to transform the small group, that small group also can work as an example to transform the large group.
That's true.
Why I'm saying this, as Singapore is a small in terms of the land, I understand also that working in a small group, it's more easier than starting with a large group. So you start with a small group, you transform this group, and the group which was transformed is going also to influence and transform the large society or the large community.
That is what we are learning in today's community building. Thank you very much, Felipe. Anybody else with a comment or a question?
John.
Yes?
The question is simple because we are in Africa. What role did religion play in all this? I'm asking this because in Ghana, even during the COVID, big churches, big cathedrals were built, and thousands of people have been going in. In Ghana today, we are at the point of building a national cathedral, which is several millions of dollars. So what role did religion play in the Singapore experience?
Mike, do you want to rescue me? Professor Mike?
Yes.
Did you hear the question?
Well, just repeat it again about they are building the National Cathedral.
What he is saying is, in Africa, we are spending all our money in religion, all our effort in religion. Let's go to Singapore. Is that what they did?
You know, I remember talking to Dr. Victor Koh and hearing what was their first steps. And he said their first steps was education. Investing their money because they had to educate their population, their people. So I remember hearing a former vice president of DRC talking about what a small percentage of a national budget goes to education. Very small. And it should be larger.
Yeah,
That's
so
all that I would say.
yeah, so we have to answer Professor and tell him the religion did not directly play any role in the transitional process. However, there was revival in the process. Christianity is a major issue in Singapore. They are leading in many areas, like, for example, in the issues of discipleship processes. They are doing very, very well. And so as they were growing economically, they were also growing in terms of spirituality. So that is a community, and you can, like Felipe has said, the community started with a few people, a president with a clear mind, then he got the people together, agreed the direction, and then he was ruthless. One of the things that you hear is he was ruthless. If you broke anything, you are locked up, even if you're a cabinet minister. He just locked you up. And so he kept, and so there was a lot of some freedoms were interfered with. Once they had agreed as a group where they were going, anybody who didn't want to go there was forced there. So that's one of the things that you have to accept.
John,
Yes?
does it go back to what you were saying? And as I hear Michael, it seems as if you go into trust. I'm sure those who were in leadership, who were championing this, who had been educated, so they built a lot of trust. And seeing that trust in their character and behavior, it was easier to actually enlist religion in the transformational process.
I agree with you. Anybody else with a comment?
I have two comments.
Yes?
One of it is that I think it's important not to have an abuse of religion. If I heard Professor Eric Wright, religion was building more buildings instead of caring for people. And that's for an example of abuse of religion in the sense that their priorities are not set right. And I think with Singapore, they had a clear vision, like you said, and a shared common ground of how to do it and where to go. And so that no institution would go out of their own boundaries and would have a clear set of values attached to them too. And like you said, education was one of them, but it helped to care for the poor people, I think.
Actually, what we were told, two things that are based on religion. Number one, they picked their best minds and sent them to Europe and America. The bright sharps were all, as a first step, were sent abroad to learn technology, learn education, and then come back to practice it in the country. Number two, they had biblical values. In other words, they are not pushing Christianity, but their values, the ones I listed for you, are biblical values. And now they were enforcing those values on the population. So, although we can say religion did not play a role, the biblical values played a role in their success. So you are right in your comments. So, let's quickly see that the characteristics of an effective community, if you the kind of community that can help bring transformation, they need a common identity. You need to tell people what is common among us. Like our sister trying to bring people from various denominations together. Emphasize what is common identity among them. Like, for example, we are not Muslims, we are Christians. So that common identity will help to bring them together. Number two, try to get them to have a shared vision. Visionary shared leadership. And then it's very clear that most groups that do well not only have common identity or shared vision, they also have a shared space. That's what has brought them together. And some, of course, have a common language. And then they have shared values. They have shared security, and they have shared rule of law and patriotism. That's what Singapore had. That's what you will need yourself to ask, what is bringing, I want to bring this group together, but what is common among them? To begin with, how can we share this transformational process together? How would you evaluate the health and effectiveness of a professional community or nation of which you are a part of? What is your personal calling with respect to building that community into a healthy one? What values will help you lead transformation in your community? I must say that the examples you are given are similar, but let's have one more. We are looking at the characteristics of a healthy and effective community. Who hasn't talked? Lynette, now you have a chance. Have you ever been involved in a group which you could call healthy? Lynette, I didn't hear.
Repeat that again.
Now, the question is, have you ever been involved in a project where you, as a community, you are trying to achieve something? And was it successful? So can you tell us what made it a success?
Allow me to share a more recent project that I was involved in, where we were raising funds for a project in the church to build some washrooms. And we achieved our objective, so we consider it successful. What we think made success is because we worked as a team. We did as a teamwork, and we had structures where we delegated tasks to each and every member, and through that we followed through what we were supposed to do, and just communicated closely as leaders, and we were able to see that achieved.
Thank you. That's bullet one. Bullet two asks you to blow your own trumpet. Talk about yourself and your involvement.
I was the project team leader as the project chairperson.
Can you see the second bullet? Can you read the second bullet?
What is your personal calling with respect to building that community into a healthy one? So I think my calling was to lead the team because when we were electing ourselves as leaders, and no one wanted to be the chairperson. So I volunteered and I led the team. So my calling was to lead the team, and I think I led the team well, and we were able to achieve that particular project. We also, as women, I was able to help the project team bring the women together by them participating in the various strategies that we had put in place.
What was success? When you call it a success, is success raising the money, or success is the toilets being used?
Success is first step, because the task for us was to raise the funds. Then another committee picks up the funds and now builds the toilets.
Are the toilets?
Our project was to raise the funds. Now their implementation is on the building committee, which composes of the engineers and the civil and the contractors, which is beyond us. So now the work will begin, and we know our involvement in it. So our success is in raising the targeted amount, which was 3 million, and we surpassed the 3 million. We were able to raise 4 million.
Okay.
So we consider it a success.
Number 3.
And number 3, what values will help you lead transformation in your community? First, I think having faith in God will help me to lead in a transformed community. And 2, knowing that you're not in a community by yourself, you're leading with the others.
Okay.
So knowing your role also in being part of a bigger community.
So what value was at play, especially in getting people to give money, in getting people, what value will help you lead that transformation, help you to lead that transformation? You have many values. Which particular value do you think people admired and trusted and therefore were able to and willing to give?
I think probably the value there was the commitment, because we were very committed, not just myself, but also the leadership that had been put in place. I don't know if I've answered the question.
So the value is that you normally are committed to whatever you put your hands to go, and people know it.
Yes.
So therefore they knew you are not taking them for a ride.
No, and we met every Sunday for more than 12 weeks for us to be able to just keep reviewing what are we doing, what have we achieved, what are we doing next, what's next.
Okay, thank you very much. Who else wants to share? All these things are teaching us. For example, we have learned from our sister from Lynette that if you want to achieve something, sometimes the best leader is the one with a calling. He is volunteering. I feel this is my call. Number 2, you need somebody who is committed. They don't surrender along the way. They are not likely to surrender along the way. Number 3, they meet. When they agree to meet, they meet regularly. They have a discipline to keep to their meetings. That will help the group to achieve its success. That's the lesson I think I'm learning. Somebody else? Mary Monzu, have you ever been involved in a group?
Yes, Daktari. I've been involved in a group, and let me share about a group we meet as ladies. It is not, we are not from the same church, but we meet as a group of ladies. And our vision was to visit and meet our parents, because we know each other as friends. We had to know where we come from. And to know where we come from, we had now to plan and go and visit our home. We meet our parents.
Mary, you should have admitted that we in Kenya, everybody has 2 homes. One in town, the other one in rural area. So when you say home, the others may wonder.
To know each other from the rural area.
Thank you.
Not the town one.
Okay.
Yes, from the rural area. So we planned, and we had a vision to visit each person from their rural home. Then when we visit our parents at rural home, we sit with them, we share with them, we bless them with gifts, and then we go to the other person. And this one, we are 11 ladies.
Just before you go on, what is the vision Or is it the tourism? Getting to know Kenya?
No, the vision was not the tourism. It is not the touring. It is to know each other. As a friend, we should know you even from where you come from. Because we have met in...
Why do you want to know my rural area, Mary? Why do you want to know? So that my village, we are in a thatch house. You keep talking about that when you went to Nganga's place, their rural home is thatched.
No, that is not the vision. Because we are friends, we want to know you too well, such that if there is anything that you need to do to your community, we know you and we know you where you come from. We are all medical personnel. The group is comprised of medical personnel. And when we make a visitation to the rural home of, for example, if they come to my place, we also educate the people around there, and we also teach them some few ways of keeping ourselves healthy.
Now,
that was one of the
can you see your vision was wider? It was not just tourism. It is assisting me to be a beneficial citizen of my community. Is that a better way of putting it, Mary?
Yes.
Yeah, and you have achieved it.
We have achieved it. We have done to the 11 homes, and it has been a blessing because every parent has blessed each one of us. And I tell you, from then it has really made us to become more. We have known each other better. We have been cohesive together, and now we know each other. When I say that I'm visiting my friends, I know where I am going.
Okay.
So we have been able to achieve.
Thank you very much. That's very good. Any challenges along the way? Give me 3 challenges to meet, because you are already successful. There must have been a way you overcame the challenges. 3 challenges of your group that your group faced.
Some of the challenges we were able to face is many times when we are planning, you'll find that some challenges arise and you are not the whole group. So we will go -1 or 2, and yet we still continue, we still go on. Then the other challenge, we have, sometimes you find that even the funds we have might not be enough, but sometimes they become a challenge. So that is still another challenge.
Is it that does everybody pay their own transport, their own way, or you have to raise the money first together and then you pay, the group pays?
We usually raise the funds ourselves, but from the families and the people who are surrounding, maybe they feel that it is a challenge because they have to now to come and congregate at the homestead.
So who pays for the food in the place? Your parents will meet the cost.
No, we are the people who meet the cost, us as the group.
Okay. So the issue is when one of the members is unable to raise the required allocated money.
Yes.
What do you do?
But now we have to find a way of cushioning it. That's why there is we look for a way we can cushion it. Then after that we can be able to raise the funds again.
So if you are 11 of you and 5 of them have money, the other 5 don't have money, what do you do?
Maybe we've not gotten to there. We have been having maybe 1 or 2. So the 1 or 2 we cushion them from the group's funds. Then later they can be able to
refund.
Yes.
Okay. Those are two problems. That one?
A third one is the third one is the challenge that we usually have is sometimes you find that what you anticipate to get is not what you get in the village. But because we have we are all from the same, we are sharing the language, you find that it becomes easier because you are able to communicate well with the group that you get, although it might not be what you anticipated to get.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody want to ask Mary a question? Abraham, what lessons do you learn on community building from the story of Mary? Reverend Abraham.
Yeah.
Draw lessons out of the story of Mary.
From what I learned from Mary, understood well is that some people coming together to be nice to other people. As I learned, she said there were 11 that thought people would do well for their people home. So it is a way of building communities because they have learned something or they are somewhere where they think they have knowledge that even they could share that other people in the rural area does not have. So as a good citizen, they come together and raise their own fund and go to share the knowledge they have.
What does that teach you that you can practice in your country?
I think it is good to practicalize similar ones, but people come together, that we come together and reach to the needed. That is, I look at it to be like coming together with what you have to go to those that you think they don't have what you have, not only in money, but knowledge and other capacity, and build their capacity up because that makes the community well dwell in place.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
John,
Yes?
John,
Go ahead.
I think Pastor Abraham have a story which I want him to share.
Oh.
They're doing a farming, pepper farming projects in the communities. So press Abraham to share that with us.
Abraham, you are being volunteered. That's the way you do it in Africa. You volunteer somebody else. Okay, go ahead, Abraham. Tell us your story.
We have a project that we are running through ATIA. But before ATIA came, it was like I and one of my friends, we came together to say, look, we are pastors. We cannot only depend on what the church gives us. So let us try to do something to do like self-supporting projects. And then we tried to do it. It was quite challenging to us. But now, by the grace of God, ATIA has come in bed. It has not only now remained with us, but it has gone in the society, in the community. And it seems to be a very good one that needs. It looked like what Mary just said, because now more people are like asking, how can you come to us? How can we benefit from what we are doing? We are doing just a simple plant gardening. Like I and my friend, we are growing peppers, and then other are growing plants, and Now we want to engage. Right now we are starting watermelon, and then other people want to also grow okra. Then you will see that they have sometimes the capacity to do, but since no one were there to encourage them into, so they were like saying it is difficult. But now today the knowledge become more easier for them, as they already see us doing it. We are not just telling them, but we are doing it ourselves. So they come and we go to their farm, they come to our farm, they become more goods. Actually, it is more goods.
Thank you. What have been the challenges of doing it as a group?
The challenge, as Mary just said, is you may not have what you want to have. Like you want to meet the group. Just recently, I think 3 days ago, I was home and I called for a meeting. I was expecting that all of the group members would come, but no, sometimes 1 or 2 come, they don't really respond to it. That is a very big challenge, because you will have to talk to other one, to these people who have come, and because I am the team leader, I want the best. I don't want for anyone to stay without implementing what we have as goal. I have to go behind them, each and every one of them, to talk to them, to explain to them what the new methods that we have developed. That is a challenging thing.
Thank you very much.
I want to share.
Welcome.
Please, thank you. I wanted to share what I learned from Mary's story.
Yes.
Yeah, I realized that transformation is possible. What we need is good vision and commitment. The commitment of each one in the group. When we are committed to do something, we can achieve our goal. When we are all committed, when we have same vision, yeah, we can achieve our goals. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure Mary can see you have trained us as we go to look at our various groups, where they are operating, where they could be operating, and how to help them to go to the transformed place. And that will be important. Unless somebody else has a question, I want to go on. Building healthy and effective communities. You have given the stories, and we have gained lessons, but some more lessons. Clarify the sovereign boundaries. You must say, who are these 11 people? What is... Can somebody else just join in between? Can my mother also join? What are the boundaries? Number 2, for this group, clarify conditions for membership or citizenship. Number 3, agreeing on a common language and symbols of identity. For Mary, they were speaking the same language. So when they go to help the village, they are able, even if the villagers cannot speak Swahili or English, they know the local language. And sometimes language can become a barrier to the community building. So you need to agree, what language will you talk? Number 4, engage core leadership of the community of change leaders in shaping a vision for the future. So you pick in this wide group, who are the core leadership, who are the key influencers. Help them to adapt fast. It will make it easier for the whole group to adapt. In Mary's case, even if out of 11, 9 people have accepted they can raise the money, they still go to the project and are able to cushion the two that don't have. Number 5, identify and embed common values. So you must agree. These are the core values. It means any group, if you really are having a group, and we will be giving you projects, and we hope you are going to use groups to achieve the objective of the project, must have a vision, says where you are going, what you want to achieve, a mission, how you will go there, and core values, the boundaries within which you can operate. If we want to go there, but not at any cost, these are our values. And what are core values? Core values are non-negotiable convictions. These are things we'll never debate. We cannot operate outside these values. And then make them part and parcel. That means if somebody refuses the value, they have to be dropped out of the group. Or there is a way of disciplining people who want to operate outside the values. Number 6, develop and utilize a philosophy for social integration. How are you going, the small group, how are you going to bring the wider group? Number 7, create a philosophical framework and strategy for development. Because it's not just something, you have to agree what's acceptable strategy for development for your group, for your community. That way you can now go to number 8 and establish a fair reward system. We have all put our efforts. When finally we are harvesting, who gets what? We have learned from the various examples how unfairness can actually destroy the whole transformation project or transformation process. So you must agree in advance what you I have 2 friends of mine who agreed to form a group and form a company that was going to do tailoring. But one of them was a doctor, the other one was a businessman. So they formed it. Now the businessman had no money. So it is the doctor who borrowed money, given his salary, to actually invest. They bought the tailoring machines, the raw materials, and they started doing it. 1 or 2 years later, the doctor was paying the loans from his salary. What happened? He says, no, the business is not making money. But there's no proper recording. But the wife of the doctor is actually involved in the business. But she doesn't know what is happening. So since we are both my friends, they finally called me to help separate them. Otherwise it would become now a quarrel. When I met them, the businessman still continues to saying, yeah, we are not making much money. Said, I think what the doctor wants to know is, how much are you making? You have been running for 2 years. Yeah, but I need the money. Said, how do you need the money? The doctor asks. You did not invest anything. Says, no. I am the one who came up with the idea. My idea is worth 50% of the shareholding. Wow, you could see it was becoming a fight. And I had a rough time trying to bring them together. Why? People agree on what to do. They don't agree on how they'll share. You agree to go hunting together. When the antelope falls, somebody in the team of hunters takes 75% of the carcass, and then you are left with 25% to share between the two of you. Now, that will kill the group. You will never go for another hunting expedition. So we are saying measure the health and effectiveness of the group, yes, but establish a fair reward system. And that needs to be established in advance, not after the results, but in advance. Number 9, develop and implement a system for leadership selection and succession. If you can see this group is going places, do you hope it will die with you? Or can it go beyond you? So, do you have a succession plan? If one of you was to get sick or even die, how would they be replaced? Especially if they are critical members of the project. That is the way to ensure the group will reach where they were going, even if one of the people drops out. Number 10, measure the health and effectiveness of the community. In other words, there must be a way of measuring whether you are achieving your purpose or not. Key performance indicators. Because I may be measuring one way, you are measuring another. Me, I'm thinking we are a success, you are thinking we are a failure. Even when we are drawing the project plan, we need to agree how shall we measure whether and if we have succeeded. Now, think of a community that you are engaged. But I think before we do that, maybe there is a question in any one of those that you want me to explain. Community building. Any question? Do you understand that all these items?
Professor,
Go ahead.
Professor,
Go ahead.
this is Anthony here.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm so grateful for this, and I have just identified here some issues that may be our weakness in our T group. I talked specifically about a lack of a non-negotiated value.
Non-negotiable convictions.
Yes, because sometimes even when combined to do something, other colleagues can do other things, or go or doing things that are not good things to our organization. So it means that we haven't a common values, a shared values. So I think that I have to work together with my colleagues in this steps.
Yeah, it's very, very important. Thank you for noting that, because what you call bad is what I call bad. So you need to agree, what do we all call bad? What we call good, you need all to agree. And without them, I normally call values are the boundaries within which we travel. If we are going to travel together, we must agree. And that is true of a marriage. We need to agree what our common values as a couple. That way, my wife knows I can't go there. That's non-negotiable. These are the places we want to succeed as a couple, but not at any cost. There are areas that are no-go zone. Because a couple is also a group.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question or comment? Can somebody share an experience of where one of these steps was useful in their group? Do you have measures? Do you agree in advance KPIs? How to measure whether the group is healthy and whether the group is effective? And if so, how have you used it? If not, what has been how has that operated? Anybody?
I think that group must be collaborative. When all members agree and then fulfill values, core values, and then there's a good environment. They are all engaged and work together. So my problem is not how to engage and how to set common values. Because sometimes we have a different values, we have a different religion, and how to build something that are accepted for all, by all members.
It's called consensus building. In other words,
Yes.
you say, I think it will be wrong for us in this to operate like this. The other says, no, it's not bad. You give your reasons. And by giving your reason, you might get him to win him over. He gives his. Initially, it doesn't mean anything. Then you finally say, if we actually have this as a value, this will be the implications. Are we ready to pay the price? Because a core value is a barrier to stop you succeeding. In other words, you are willing to fail rather than break that value. So you can't just pick any value because it will stop your progress. But then, again, you can't succeed at any cost. So the way to build consensus is to come up with ideas, debate them, and when there are emotion, there are a lot of emotions, you say, let's go and think about it. Let's sleep over this. Come next time, people have thought about what each person said. And think again. If you don't agree, put it to a third meeting. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Very good.
Okay. Let me ask somebody to comment about develop an implement system of leadership selection. How are you? Why is that important? Before you do the selection, agree the process, because the trouble is, if you have a favorite, you are likely to create rules so that the favorite can become whatever position you want to allocate. Is there anybody with an experience where the fight and the breakup of the group was on selection of leadership?
Yeah, I know a situation of a friend.
Yes.
Who was working with or in an NGO where he was recruited by CEO, I don't know if it's a general, we call it PDG, the director for the NGO. So they were working, and by the grace of God, they were receiving funding, then working. But suddenly, the director was to travel to the USA. And then, since these were not there, the leadership selection, then the director thought if he would leave somebody to just lead the NGO, the benefit won't be for him, or he will not benefit the NGO the way he was to. So he then decided to take his son and put at the head of the NGO. And this son does not have an idea. He is a graduate, yes, but he did not do something like management. And he was not even with the father when the father was in the country. But now, because the father were to go to the US, so he called upon him to come. And just a week after he has come, then was named as the executive director. So the people were my friend, they said no. They don't want him as a director. Why the director cannot choose his deputy, the assistant to the director, supposed to be the director while he go out of the country, and then he will come back after 3 years. But then the director said, no, this NGO, he was the founder, so he should put someone who he wants. And then he put his son. But after he left, just less than 1 year, the NGO fell. Because one, the boy does not have the idea to lead, and it was like the people who were working in the company or in the NGO did not wish for that man to lead. So it's like they were now working cooperatively with him. So the NGO fell.
Abraham, let me ask you a question. Was he a founder owner or just a founder?
He was a funder. The issue is there were 3 that funded the NGO, but unfortunately the 2 died. So he was the only remaining funder.
So he felt like he is the owner, not just a founder.
Yes.
He felt he is the owner. But was he really the owner?
So I may agree, yes, because the 3 that funded, the others has passed, and then he is the only one who can tell the genesis of this NGO. He was the one who were there when they were flooding. So it is also what I also noticed is that since job business is high, so those that were recruited in this NGO, maybe they not insist to know how this NGO was to function. They just content with because they have gotten job.
That tells you that point that any group must have a written down system of recruitment, of promotion. Number 2, it must have a selection plan. From the story you are giving us, Abraham, that group did not have either. And that's why a very good job, maybe it was helping many people, but now within a year it was gone. So similarly, all of us, if you are going to begin something, some of the things that should be in your constitution or in your letters are these things I have listed. All of them need to be mentioned somewhere in your agreement as a project. How will we recruit? What kind of membership? What will be the qualification? Number 2, how shall we agree on leadership? How shall we select leaders? Number 3, is there a succession plan? If the leader failed, how do we replace them? All this, I think that's the lessons I'm learning from Abraham's story. Very good story. Anybody else with a comment or a question?
Yes, Professor. Here is Philippe.
Yes.
I just have a comment on measuring. How do we measure the health of leadership in the community? Most of the times, when we do leadership in a group, we measure the success or the health of the group according to the results. And we don't care about the way we got it. We don't care about who were in the group when we got it. We don't care about what were the results we used to get it. But I think that according to what you're explaining, Professor, it came in my mind that we should not only rely on the results that we get in the group, but we have also to see the elements. That is when we talk about boundaries. Are we doing the right thing with the right people? We talk also about specific documents which are trying to explain what exactly do we have to do in the group. So in summary, I just want to say that in measuring our group, in measuring the health of our group, we should not rely only the results. We should also look on other steps that we took in order to get the results.
Thank you. So don't just look at the final product. There's a management system called Balanced Scorecard. Balanced Scorecard is a way of measuring success beyond profitability. You look at how how the marketing side is going, you look at how internal management is going, you look at, that's what we call the balanced scorecard on performance management. And that's what we are suggesting. Don't just measure the results. Don't say that, we set up the group to support the poor. You have supported the poor, yes. You wanted to support 5 kids. You have actually supported 9. But if you don't look at the way the meetings are going, you may be just about the whole group will die because somebody feels ignored, feels he is not in agreement with what you are doing. As you are celebrating the many people, the following year there is nobody. The group has died. And so I agree with you, Philip. We need to find a way of measuring the health of the group, not just at the end, but in the process. We don't agree with Machiavelli. The end does not justify the means. You must measure how well the means are going. You must also, even as you also look at whether you realize your vision. Thank you, Felipe. That's a very good comment. Anybody with a comment, with a question? Remember what I said at the beginning. You cannot achieve a big transformational change alone. And that's why these skills are a requirement of any transformational leader. To transform the community, you require a critical mass of people who agree with you, who can go with you on the journey, and whom you'll use to influence the total community to go to where you know is a good place to go. So that's why we are saying community building is critical to transformational leadership. And it's a requirement. We'll try to do the balance of the issues on Thursday, God willing. Yeah, there's 5 minutes more, and it's only fair to give to Professor Mike to bring conclusion. But if there's a question, I've not closed you out. If there's something that's not clear, number 1, about the importance of community building in your transformational process. Number 2, about the process of building, although we will still continue next week. On Thursday, rather. Any question, any comment? I hand over to Professor Mike. Me, I'm Brother Nganga. Now, when you want to call somebody professor, call Mike. Me, I'm not a professor. I'm simply Brother Nganga. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's okay, Brother Nganga.
Yes.
A very well experienced person, and thank you very much, John. You have experience really with building community, not only in your village and area in Nairobi, in your profession, but in your church. You really built in what was one of the original pillars of your church denomination. So thank you very much. Well, let me just hand it over to Professor Eric.
Thank you very much, John. It was good. I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much, Michael, also for sort of making sure that all the protocols and all the processes